Hi, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Fooled by Plants. Today we have something really special for you, and this is actually going to have to be made in stages. So this video might get a little bit long, but we're going to try to do things fast, and I'll speed up through the video and the boring stuff. But today we are going to make my famous lasagna. So yes, you see a ton of stuff here on the calendar, and that is because there is a ton of stuff that goes into this lasagna. This is not something that you would just normally make on a weekday for dinner. This is something you want to make on the weekend, or maybe make a couple on the weekend, put one in the freezer. So if you did want to have it during the week, you could pull it out of the freezer and make it easier during the week. But we're going to get started today by making what I call our maccata. So our maccata is going to be based on tofu. So this is extra firm tofu blocks, 2 of them, which have been pressed and drained of most of the liquid that was in them. To the 2 blocks of tofu, we're going to add 8 ounces of our favorite plant-based cream cheese. We're also going to add 2 tablespoons of our favorite plant-based milk, 1 cup of our favorite plant-based mozzarella shreds. You're actually going to use an entire package for this recipe, so just leave the cheese out because we're only using a cup out of that, but we will use the whole bag. 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan, plant-based, like the Follow Your Heart brand. And then we got some spices. We have a 1/2 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So we're going to make sure that all of those spices are in there. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this in our mixer, and we're going to blend this until it's a creamy consistency. So we're going to do that right now when I put this on Star Mix-a-Lot, and when we come back, we'll start the meat base. Well, we have our maccata thrown together now, and as you can see, it is just the right consistency for our ricotta cheese filling layer for a lasagna. But we're going to set that aside right now because now we have to combine some of our plant-based meats. So today for mine, I am going to add a 12-ounce package of my favorite plant-based meat replacement. And I'm also going to be using 14 ounces of my favorite Italian plant-based sausage. So we're going to combine the 2 of these together in our mixer, and we're going to create a plant-based meat combination of these 2. So once I'm done with that, we'll come back and we'll start the cooking and layering process. See you in a minute. All right, so now we have our plant-based meat products that have been all blended together so that it is one mass of plant-based meat mixture. So we're going to start making the meat-based filling portion for a lasagna. So we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to the bottom of our pan. Coat the bottom. And to that, we're going to add 8 ounces of sliced white mushrooms, 1/2 of a small white onion that has been diced. We'll get that started there. 1 tablespoon of freshly diced garlic. 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. Now we're going to get all of those veggies and spices starting to cook down in this pot. For time's sake, as soon as the veggies are cooked down, I'm going to add our plant-based meat and I'll brown it. And at that point, I'll bring you back and we'll continue on with the recipe. All right, now we finally finished browning all of our plant-based meats and cooking down the veggies, the mushrooms and the onions, so that they are now the base for our lasagna meat layer. So to this now, I am going to add 2 24-ounce jars of tomato sauce. So almost 2 whole jars, because out of the first jar, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pour just a little bit on the bottom of my baking dish, maybe 1/4 cup, and take a spatula and just make sure that that is all covering the bottom of my baking dish. I also pre-greased this baking dish with some olive oil before that. So I'm going to add the first remaining jar of pasta sauce, and then we're going to go right in and add the entire second jar. So 2 24-ounce jars of pasta sauce, or 48 ounces of pasta sauce in total. We're going to go ahead and give that a stir just to make sure that the meat mixture and the tomato sauce is all very well incorporated. At this point, you can go ahead and turn off your burner completely because you don't need this to cook in the pot anymore. We will be cooking in the oven. So we're going to let this get well combined, which it has. And now it is going to be time for us to start layering our pasta. So if you are not new to this show, you know that anytime I make pasta and it's going to be in a baked dish or in a cold pasta dish, I've already boiled the pasta, drained it, and now it's been sitting out in some cold water. I do that so that it stops the cooking process on the pasta while I'm preparing everything else, as well as it helps rinse off some of the starch. Starch left on pasta can prevent it from soaking in some of the flavors from your sauce. So you want to try to get as much of that starch off as we can. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to drain my lasagna noodles out of the cold water that they've been sitting in. And we're going to come on over here so that we can start layering. So with any kind of lasagna, we are going to do this in layers. So we're going to do a layer of pasta noodles. And then we're going to take a ladle, our meat mixture, and ladle in a layer of our meat mixture. Make sure that it's spread out evenly across the dish. And then another layer of pasta noodles. And then we're going to do a layer of our mock cotta. So with a spatula, grab some of the mock cotta, place it into your lasagna. And it's okay to use your fingers because you might need to use your fingers on this one just to make sure that the mock cotta is evenly spread on that layer of lasagna. And then remember how I said don't put away your plant-based cheese package? That is because we are going to sprinkle a very thin layer of our plant-based mozzarella on top of our mock cotta. Now, I'm making a small lasagna today for demonstration purposes, and I can't get this bag open. My fingers are all wet. Let's try this again. A little bit of comedy to go along with cooking. We're gonna keep layering this up until we are at the top of the baking dish. I'm gonna have some of the ingredients left over, and I will be freezing those so that I can make a lasagna on a quicker time schedule than it is to prep this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish layering this. We're going to top it off and we're going to put it in a 350-degree preheated oven for 45 minutes. We're going to remove the lid or the cover and bake for another 10 minutes. And then we're going to pull it out and we're going to let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes before we start serving it. So I'm going to go ahead, finish layering, get this in the oven. And when we come back, after recapping this recipe, we'll see if my amazing lasagna recipe can fool you by plants. Be back in a few. Well, now it's time to try our plant-based meaty lasagna and see how it turned out and see if we can be fooled by plants. You can see all the layers kept their shape very nicely. The plant-based mozzarella cheese melted on the top, so it's just time to taste it and see if it's delicious. Mm. It is so good. The plant-based meat mixture mixed with our makkata recipe makes this an amazing lasagna that you would fool anyone into thinking this was all plants. It's delicious. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube to get notified when new episodes drop, and help us spread the word about how delicious a plant-based recipe can be. And if you've made this recipe, comment on the video and let us know how it turned out for you. Do you have an idea for a recipe or a show idea? Why don't you send it to us at fooledbyplants@gmail.com. And if you want today's recipe where you can print or download a copy, go to fooledbyplants.com and click on today's episode. Be sure to follow us on all of our socials. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.